Aita for telling the cashier that wasn't the girl's credit card. Throwaway because my husband thinks I'm TA. And I need to know what Reddit thinks before I get home and we end up arguing about this again. Sorry if the formatting's messy. I'm typing this on my phone in the car, parked, don't worry. Also, I'm still kinda heated, so bear with me if I ramble a bit. Okay, so this happened earlier today, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around whether I overstepped or if I was just doing the right thing. For context, I'm 42, married with a 16-year-old son. I work part-time as an office manager, and my husband's a mechanic. We're not rich by any means, but we do okay, middle class I guess. My son's at that age where he's always asking for stuff like new sneakers or video games, and I've always been super strict about money with him. Like he's not allowed to touch my credit card ever. I've drilled it into his head that using someone else's card without permission is a big no-no. Basically stealing. Maybe that's why this situation got under my skin so much, but I'll get to that. So, I was at this higher-end department store today. Think fancy, rhymes with looming tales. I don't shop there often because frankly it's way out of my budget, but they were having a big clearance sale. And I needed a new coat for work since my old one's practically falling apart. Plus, I figured I'd browse for a Christmas gift for my husband's mom, who's super picky and loves name-brand stuff. The store was packed, lots of holiday shoppers, and the vibe was chaotic but not like Black Friday crazy. I'm wandering through the women's shoes section, not really looking at much because the prices were still ridiculous even with the sale, when I overhear these two teenage girls, maybe 15 or 16 tops, talking a few aisles over. One of the girls, let's call her Boots Girl, was holding this pair of super fancy leather boots, like the kind you'd see an influencer wearing on Instagram. They were gorgeous, don't get me wrong, but I glanced at the price tag on a similar pair nearby, and they were upwards of $900. $900 for boots. I'm thinking, who's buying this for a kid, no less? The other girl, who I'll call Friend Girl, must have seen the price too because she goes, "Are you really gonna drop that much on boots? That's like insane." Boots Girl just laughs and says something like, "It's fine, I'm using my dad's credit card. I'm not paying a cent." That stopped me dead in my tracks. I know I shouldn't have been eavesdropping, but come on. When you hear something like that, your ears perk up, right? I'm thinking, hold up, did she just say she's using her dad's card? My mom radar went off because, like I said, I've always told my son that using my card without permission is basically fraud. I've had this conversation with him so many times, especially after he borrowed my debit card once to buy some in-game currency for Fortnite when he was 13. We grounded him for a month over that, and I made him mow the neighbor's lawn to pay me back. So, hearing this girl casually talk about using her dad's card like it's no big deal, yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't say anything right then though. I mean, I'm not that person. Or at least I didn't think I was. I just kept browsing, but I was low-key keeping an eye on them. They were giggling, trying on shoes, taking selfies. Typical teenage stuff. Boots Girl was clearly the leader of the duo, super confident, dressed in this trendy outfit that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Friend Girl seemed a little more hesitant, like she was along for the ride but not totally comfortable with the whole "let's spend a fortune" vibe. At one point, I heard Boots Girl say something about how her dad never checks the statements anyway, which only made me more suspicious. I'm not proud of it, but I was kinda invested at this point, like I was watching a real-life episode of Dateline unfold. Anyway, I lost track of them for a bit while I was looking at coats. I found one on sale that was still more than I wanted to spend but looked professional enough for work, so I grabbed it and headed to the checkout. The line was long, and I ended up right behind Boots Girl and Friend Girl at one of the registers. I wasn't trying to stalk them or anything. It's a big store, but there were only a few cashiers open, so it just happened. I could see Boots Girl's pile of stuff on the counter. Those boots, a couple of sweaters, some jewelry, and a handbag. The cashier was ringing it all up, and the total on the screen kept climbing. By the time she was done, it was well over $1,200. I'm standing there, clutching my $80 coat, thinking, holy crap, who lets their kids spend that much? Boots Girl pulls out a credit card from her wallet, and I can see it's one of those fancy store-branded ones, the kind that gives you points or rewards or whatever. She's about to swipe it when something in me just snaps. I don't know how to explain it, But I couldn't stand there and watch this kid get away with what I thought was straight up fraud. I mean, she said it was her dad's card, right? And she made that comment about him not checking the statements. In my head, I'm picturing this poor guy getting a massive bill and finding out his daughter's been running wild with his card. I know it's not my place to parent other people's kids, but I kept thinking, if no one says anything, she's just gonna keep doing this. Plus, I was thinking about my son. If he ever tried something like this, I'd want someone to call him out. So I clear my throat and say to the cashier, excuse me, but that's not her card. It's her father's, and I'm not sure she has permission to use it. I tried to say it calmly, like I was just pointing out a fact, but I'll admit my tone probably came off a little judgy. The cashier, this older woman who looked like she'd seen it all, pauses and looks at Boots Girl. Boots Girl and Friend Girl both whip around and give me the dirtiest look I've ever gotten in my life. I swear if looks could kill, I'd be 6 feet under. Boots Girl's face went from shocked to furious in like 2 seconds. Friend Girl just looked mortified, like she wanted to disappear. Boots Girl goes, "What? Are you serious? My dad gave me this card to shop with. It's the store's credit card, and he gets the points for it." Her voice was loud, and people in line started turning to look. I could feel my cheeks getting hot, but I doubled down because I was already in it, you know? I say, "Well, you said it's your dad's card, not yours, so how do we know you're allowed to use it?" I'm not proud of how accusing I sounded, but I was so convinced she was up to no good. The cashier, who clearly didn't want to deal with this, looks at Boots Girl and says, "I'm sorry, but if it's not your card, I can't let you use it." Boots Girl starts fumbling with her wallet and pulls out her ID, showing it to the cashier. "Look, we have the same last name. It's my dad's card, and he lets me use it all the time." I roll my eyes, I know, not my finest moment, and say, "That doesn't prove anything. It's still fraud if you don't have permission." I don't even know why I said that. I think I was just so stuck on the idea that she was doing something wrong that I couldn't back down. Boots Girl snaps at me. "It's not fraud. I have permission, and you need to mind your own business." Her voice was shaking, and I could tell she was pissed, but I wasn't about to let her talk to me like that. I say, "It is my business if you're doing something illegal. You need to pay with your own card, or I'm calling the cops." Okay, yeah, that was way over the line. I don't know why I said I'd call the police. I wasn't actually going to do it, but I was so worked up, and I wanted her to take it seriously. The cashier's looking at me like I'm the one causing a scene, and people in line are whispering. Friend Girl grabs Boots Girl's arm and says something like, "Just forget it, let's go." But Boots Girl's not having it. She pulls out another card, her own debit card I'm guessing, and slams it on the counter. "Fine, I'll use this one," she says, glaring at me. The cashier processes the payment, and Boots Girl grabs her bags. As she's leaving, I see her eyes are all red like she's about to cry, and Friend Girl's practically dragging her out of the store. I felt a pang of guilt for like a second, but then I told myself she needed to learn a lesson. The cashier hands me my receipt without saying a word, but I could tell she was annoyed with me. I mumbled something about just trying to do the right thing and left. When I got home, I told my husband the whole story, expecting him to back me up. I mean, he's always on the same page with me about teaching our son responsibility, so I thought he'd agree that I did the right thing by calling her out. Nope. He just stared at me and said, "Babe, you were totally in the wrong. You don't know that girl's situation, and it wasn't your place to get involved." I got defensive and said, "So I'm just supposed to let her commit fraud right in front of me?" He sighed and said, "You didn't know she was committing fraud. She said she had permission and you turned it into a huge deal. You probably embarrassed her for no reason." We went back and forth for a bit, and I ended up storming off to cool down. Now I'm sitting in my car typing this out, and I'm starting to wonder if I messed up. Like, yeah, I thought I was doing the right thing, but everyone, the cashier, the people in line, my husband, seems to think I was out of line. I keep replaying it in my head, and I'm wondering if I misjudged the situation. Maybe she really did have permission, and I just assumed the worst because of my own rules for my son. But then I think about how casually she said her dad doesn't check the statements, and it makes me think she was up to something shady. I don't know. For some extra context, I grew up in a pretty strict household. My parents were big on don't touch what's not yours, and I've carried that into my own parenting. I've always been the tough love mom with my son, and it's worked. He's a good kid, gets decent grades, and doesn't get into trouble. But my husband's always been the more laid-back one, and sometimes he thinks I'm too hard on people. He's probably going to bring this up again when I get home, and I'm dreading it because I hate admitting when I'm wrong. I also feel bad for making that girl cry, but at the same time I feel like she needed to hear it. I'm so torn. So, Reddit aita for telling the cashier that wasn't the girl's credit card. Did I overstep, or was I right to call it out? I'm bracing myself for the comments, so go ahead and let me know what you think.